Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the ET Stand, the Cronulla Sharks fan podcast, where we let our talking do the football. And in round 11 of the 2024 season, we're travelling to Suncorp to Magic Round to play the Roosters. So we're going to go back to another Magic Day where we plucked the, what they called the salary sombrero amigos at another Magic venue, being the Central Coast Stadium, or once known as Blue Tongue Stadium. I think that's my favourite version of it. Back in 2017, round 17 that was. Chris Kelly was our man on the ground there. He's back to join me again for, I think, his second time. And last week we spoke for an hour about a match that had one try. Then we had a win over Melbourne on the weekend, and the debrief went for an hour and a half. I can hear Boldo telling me to stop talking already, so here we go. Kelly, the floor is yours. I'll dial that music down. We had technical issues last week. I hope you can hear the music this week. Kelly, you were here that day. What were your memories?
Yeah, I was. I travelled up with my good friend Chris Arena, who's a diehard Roosters fan and ticket holder at the Roosters. So he was like, "No, let's go up to the game." And he just said, "I'll drive up." And said, "Okay." So we went up. And as we're heading up the famous highway that always jams up with traffic, we heard it was a sellout, going to be a cracker crowd. So we had to park about 5 kilometres away from the ground and walk all the way back, and turned up, and they'd run out of beer in the first, not even 10 minutes before the game had started. So I wish it went back to being Blue Tongue Stadium, because at least, you would have got a beer back then when it was sponsored by the now defunct beer by John Singleton. So we found out that the beer all sold out. So it's kind of like the pub with no beer. It was the ground with no beer. So wonderful sunny day, obviously wearing my Premier's gear going into it. Very excited and playing the Roosters. But yeah, you think knowing it was going to be a sellout at Gosford, they don't get many of these games. Pump up the beer, guys.
Yeah, they seemed a bit unprepared. I was unprepared myself. I was living in Newcastle at the time. I was working that morning. I held off buying a ticket because I thought, well, if I get caught up at work, I won't be able to make it. We had my mate Bryn and his now wife Lara were coming up, and they had tickets for it. And I was like, I should be able to make it. I probably won't make kickoff, but it won't be sold out. I'll be able to duck down. So anyway, I got away from work at a reasonable time. I was driving across Hexham Bridge at, I think it was about 2 p.m. with a 3 p.m. Saturday kickoff, and listening to ABC Radio, and Andrew Moore goes, "And we're officially a sellout here at Central Coast." I'm like, you're kidding. And then I'm hearing from them, and I think even yourself on the group chat texting going, we're parking in, I don't know, Hornsby, that far away. Yeah. And so I was like, I didn't get too far. So I turned back, got home in time for kickoff, and then I was able to crack the beers, and it was a very enjoyable afternoon after that. Bryn and Lara kept tracking north, so we caught up with them later, but I think I was a few beers in by then. I think you guys tracked back south after the big afternoon. But yeah, running out of beer, I forgot about that, but now it rings a bell now that you mention it. Yeah, it was Cardinal Sin. How does that happen?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if they thought they were going to get a crowd, because obviously we know the Roosters don't travel traditionally too well to other grounds, but being it's kind of their second home ground sometimes they like to take games, like that's their sort of their second ground they like to take games to. Yeah. And especially being Cronulla fans, we're on the back of a premiership, and we drink, Cronulla fans drink. So
yeah, you look at the crowd, and there was good representation from both teams, but it looked like a lot of Sharks fans, obviously bandwagon or otherwise post-premiership, but we were supposed to play there in 2021 as well. I was planning on going to that. It was kind of between lockdowns. We had friends from Dubbo that were coming across, and then the Roosters last minute, because I think the stadium was double booked or something, so they rescheduled it to be the Raiders game there, and we played at the SCG, which I suppose was cool playing at the SCG, but I think that was the one where we gave up a good lead to lose to Sam Walker and his crew. So anyway, that's by the by, but here we are. Welcome back. We'll see how we go with this one. 2017, guys, thanks for being understanding that we're doing 2 games from the same season back to back. Obviously, last week we covered the big round 6 win in Melbourne, our very first Amy Park. Topical, given that we won, broke a drought there on the weekend. Looking at a bit of form going into this one, the Roosters were sitting second. They had their tails up. They'd had 3 wins and 1 loss and 1 bye. It was during Origin season, Origin period. If you look on the NRL website, the full match replay is on there, and you'll hear them talking a lot about going into Origin 3. So the Storm the Roosters had a good win over the Storm in Adelaide the week before, 25-24. I think that was a Golden Point thriller. Michael Gordon, the ex-Shark, was kicking there, and I think it was Luke Keary, I think, that kicked the field goal for that one. They had the bye. They pumped the Tigers. They just snuck past the Broncos, and they had a surprise loss to the Raiders, who obviously were building towards their 2019 grand final appearance. While for us, we got pumped by Manly at home. We got ambushed down 18-0 early. Sounds familiar. We got back to 18-12 at half time, but what was his name now? Dylan Walker broke young Jaden Braley's jaw in a horrific act in the second half that basically went unsighted, I think. He did cop a lengthy ban for it, but at the time it got away with murder, essentially, and the Manly ran away with that one 35-18. We did sneak past the Tigers while we were without quite a few Origin players. Kurt Capel with a double in that one. We lost to Melbourne at home. That was the match we may have referenced last week where we fought back from 12-0 down to lead 13-12 with a minute to go. And then I erroneously said Kenny Bromwich. It was Felice Kafusi who were talking about, who streaked away from the short kickoff. Not quite Talakai-esque on the weekend, but they got the ball back a couple of sets or tackles into the set. Got a runaway try to seal that one. We had a bye. And then this is a game that I think we'll cover in due course. I did like this one. It was a scrappy performance. We're down 8-0 to the Bulldogs. We took the 2 to come back to 8-2. And then international Gerard Beale scored a length of the field try to bring it back to 8-all. Before Paul Gallen had a barnstorming 30 to 40 metre run. He was an everywhere man in that game. He saved a try just before, and Chad Townsend kicked the winning field goal. So we were up and down that year. Do you have particular memories of that period?
Especially that Storm game. I remember sitting there. It was was it a cold Saturday night? I believe we were sitting there. It was
as
Saturday
Thursday night.
I think it was. I know it was a night
it was a bit
game,
of an odd one.
Famously, our host again was at that time living in New York, and I believe he messaged a couple of us at the same time. And I said, Boldo just messaged me. I yelled out, and everyone goes, "What did he say?" And I read my phone. It said, "We can't lose from here." And as I said that, Kafusi made that break right in front of us, and they streaked away and scored. And I felt like everyone's going to throw all their beers and tomatoes at me at the same time. So we were banned from talking to Boldo after that. So he wasn't allowed anymore to text us during the games.
He was a disliked man in that stand, even when he didn't sit there. So, yes, I think I read and saw the same thing. We both looked at each other. I think we had our phones kind of a close hold too, because that night, I have to look it up, but from memory, it was grand final rematch Sharks. It was a Thursday night, Sharks versus Storm. There was an AFL grand final rematch with Swans versus Western Bulldogs at the SCG that same night, and I think there was a Socceroos World Cup qualifier versus Saudi Arabia. I think so. A lot of us were going back and forth between how the other games were going. So
how bizarre to have a grand final replay on a Thursday night. Like I know that was Channel 9 trying to promote a primetime game, but come on,
but it only had
give us a Friday or a Sunday arvo.
I remember it was a rainy night too. I drove down from Newcastle.
It wasn't fun. I remember it was cold.
Yeah, maybe 10,000 people there. It wasn't great. So we were up and down. Obviously, we performed well in that one after a poor start. The Tigers game, we just snuck past after we were down I think we were down 12-4 at halftime and maybe even 18-10 midway through the second half to come back with that one. And the Bulldogs game was far from convincing as well. So we weren't setting the world on fire while the Roosters were really starting to build towards what was their back-to-back premierships in 2018 and 2019. Looking at the sides, I'll go through them now.
Going on that. Flano was just, I've reading a couple of notes on, he was saying before this game, he actually pulled the team before kickoff back into the locker room 10 minutes ago to say, because we were such slow starters, we were behind Manly, we were behind a Melbourne, even behind the Tigers. And like I said, the Dogs game was a bit of a drag out. So he wanted to get the team primed and ready. And obviously what he said must have rung home. So I'm sure we'll go into the stats and things like that. But it was an interesting tactic that he pulled out because of our famous slow starts we were having in that little period.
You're right. And the commentary in this were commenting on how the Sharks were notorious slow starts, and we had a bit of a faster start in this. Well, I wouldn't say it was a fast start. It was a close first half. We'll go through that shortly. Improved. We'll get a bit of music going. I know we had no music last week, so hopefully we'll be able to hear Boldo's instrumental here as we go through the teams. Starting with the home side, the Roosters. Former Shark number 1 Michael Gordon, the wingers Daniel Tupou and Blake Ferguson, the centres Latrell Mitchell and Joey Manu, both leaving or since left the Roosters. The halves Luke Keary, Mitchell Pearce. The front row JWH, Jake Friend, the captain, Dylan Napa. The back row Ryan Madison, who's moved on to different places these days, Mitch Orbison and Aidan Guerra. The bench Isaac Liu, Zane Tedavano, Connor Watson, Kane Evans. The coach Trent Robinson. The Sharks, well, We've got the back three of Holmes, Fecky and Beale, the centres of Bird and Latelli, the halves of Maloney and Townsend. You know it well. The front row of Fafita, Pryor and Farmanu Brown in 9, who's replaced James Seguiaro, and Jaden Brayley. The back row, Luke Lewis, Wade Graham, Paul Gallen. The bench, Bakuya, Hydington, Tagatese and Joey Paulo moving onto the bench as well. The coach, Shane Flanagan.
About finish the music.
That's it.
Yeah, what a lineup the Roosters, or even us, that's virtually our team that played in the grand final. If you look at the Roosters, as usual, star-studded, like you said, the Sombreros Unlimited, with that sort of back line to forwards is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
But you can tell why it's going to be a sellout, because it's just two big heavyweights at the time. Obviously, we'll come off the back of premiership win, and the Roosters, again, have got a star-studded lineup that everyone wants to go and watch. So, no wonder.
Yeah, I remember going into this match, most Sharks fans weren't confident at all. The Roosters had their tails up after beating Melbourne in Adelaide, and we'd been pumped by Manly at home. So there weren't too many changes. Obviously, Jaden Brayley had broken his jaw, so Farmanu Brown came in because James Seguiaro was injured with a broken arm from the Storm game earlier in the year. We had Daniel Mortimer, who's the likely replacement, much forgotten. I thought he only played one game. He played 2 matches for us. He played in the Tigers win and the Manly loss before departing to Lee Centurions, who are now known as the Lee Leopards, I believe. Capewell dropped off the bench as well, so to bring in, I think it was Joey Paulo. So some changes there. The Roosters only had one change, and that was Nat Butcher replaced by Kane Evans on the bench. I'm not sure whether that was injury or suspension induced, but obviously Nat Butcher's been around a little while now. But yeah, that Roosters team, red hot. Our team, good too. We've got the skeleton. I suppose you can say, minus obviously the fullback and the hooker from the grand final, but pretty much the same forward pack, the same bench. So ripping into the game itself, you can see all the key moments there. We'll have a look at it though. It was the Roosters did have a really good start defensively. We didn't make much ground in our first set. I remember watching it going, the Roosters seem up for it here. One issue we had the previous week against Manly was that they ambushed us with a big forward pack. So we had Fafita, but he was the real only decent size we had. I remember we just got smashed through the middle, and a lot of the talk during the week about that was, the Sharks, are the forwards too old? Are they small? Are they ineffectual? They had, I'm not sure who it was for them, Curtis Sinneran, bizarrely scored 2 tries for them, but they had a really big front row that were just carving up. So the Roosters basically did that to us in the first set. I'm like, okay, here we go. And they were commenting too that Valentine Holmes had only scored 2 tries in 2017. However, 5th minute off the back foot, Valentine Holmes almost got a 40-20. It was basically just an unlucky bounce that stopped it from happening. That put basically the Roosters back 3 in 2 minds. Our forward started, we were making a bit of ground out wide, and then Fafita turned beast mode and ran for, I think it was over 180 metres off, only played 40 minutes or so. There's a key moment later in the second half where he showed his true worth, but it was a bit of an arm wrestle early on. We broke the deadlock early on, which with what was a good try after. In the 7th minute, just before that, the Roosters made a break on the second tackle where they went down the right. Joey Manu kicked, actually, which was probably not the best percentage play for that. Valentine Holmes muffed the cleanup and it went backwards, thankfully, but it looked like Fafita picked up the ball from an offside position, which the commentators were blowing up about on the fact that he was offside, but also lauding the fact that Fafita was back cleaning up next to the fullback from a break on the second tackle. So interesting stuff. We did get a penalty for an offside, so it would have been a 6-game call these days to break the deadlock at 2-0 on the 11th minute. And just after that, we went downfield and Bird scored a great try down the right, beating 3 defenders, including Latrell. It was a nice decoy run by Lewis that sucked in Latrell and out the back play. And Bird still had plenty to do. He showed his true worth there, similar to the Storm game that we were talking about last week, where he was still 20 metres out and he put a right foot step on and then pegged his ears back to the try line and just showed great finishing display. Do you remember seeing that one? I know you would have looked at the highlights today.
Yeah, I remember seeing that one. Yeah, it was just he was in a different vein of form. I'm sure we're going to talk about it on this week about boom rookies that the Sharks have had throughout the week. But I I comment to a lot of people these days, there was nothing like 2016/17 Jack Bird. He hasn't recaptured that form since. I think the last I think this week he scored a try in the Dragons match, but I think, he hasn't really sort of recaptured that 2016/2017 form ever since. So, yeah,
I'm not
it
sure.
was a different beast. Him and Fafita were two different beasts at that stage. It was,
Yeah, I'm not sure if he ever will, to be honest with you. Like, I mean, for
nah.
Bird, as we're talking about, like his body shapes had to change with the injuries he's had. I'm not sure if that was going to have to happen too with the arthritis he had, but it was great to see anyway. It was a warmish actually July day, despite the fact it was I think it's first July, middle of winter, but sunny. 20 odd degrees in the middle of winter on the Central Coast. So good attacking conditions. And our set straight after points was basically as good as it gets. We worked up to the halfway line. Maloney put a great 50-metre low kick in that bounced about 1 metre out from the in goal. That basically saw the Roosters have a scrum 10 metres out. We defended, and then on the second tackle, they went down the short side. Latrell made a break, got an offload inside to Keary, who set off, and it was the commentators told him it was one of the tries of the season, and I do agree. Basically, it was something out of nothing. Latrell to Keary put in and kick through for Tupou, and the Roosters just like that. Like the Sharks did everything perfect they possibly could in the first 15 minutes or so to get 8-0 up, and like in the blink of an eye, as I was saying, against the run of play, Tupou had scored. Gordon kicked it from the left touch line. All of a sudden, it was 8-6.
Yeah, like you said, it was a really warm July day up there, so it was obviously a dry track, and I was sitting, as you saw in the previous slide, up at the top, sort of 50, 40-metre line up the top up there, so I had a good view of it, and like you're like, oh no, like the way they put on tries like that, you were like, here we go. Like it was, hold on to your hats, Cronulla fans, here comes the Roosters, because it was, like you just said, you named those names just then, where it was Latrell to Keary to Tupou, like they're still going around now in the same sort of form. Obviously not Latrell at the Roosters, but the class across that back line is you're just expecting those kind of things to happen, and they do. When you see those guys in full flight, different kettle of fish. So
nothing you can do to stop them. Yeah, which is interesting because they'd signed Michael Gordon to replace. I'm not sure who they were looking to have it. Must have been Tedesco had a long-standing injury, I think, which resulted in Gordon going to fullback.
Yep.
So, and he didn't look out of place either. Obviously, he had a huge career with us, and then was doing a very serviceable job for the Roosters and kicking well as well. They've
had a bit of a knack as well, like the Melbourne Storm, of signing veterans that sort of just plug into their system, and like you think the Morris boys to Tedesco to Gordon to Keary to even Cronk. Coming along there at the back end of his career and just plug it into those systems, so he was unbelievable. He was sort of recaptured that maybe Penrith form that he didn't really bring to us too often, and you put him in a Roosters team and back to his best.
Yeah, Moneyball signing. He did make some good runs. He was covering a lot of ground, getting a lot of our kicks on the full, and Maloney was kicking well, but Townsend put some good kicks in too, as I said before, almost a 40-20. But he really stepped up, and I suppose he was probably wanting to get one over the Sharks, given that he'd left in somewhat controversial circumstances. He went to the Eels and then the Roosters, I think, so before he finished with the Titans. But just after that, so the Roosters set after points, turned the ball over. Maloney with a great hit on Pearce, 40 out from the Roosters line, hit him under the ribs, and Pearce lost the ball, put the Sharks on the attack. We had 3 sets on their line. There was initially an error, then there was a penalty, and then we managed, or first one was repeat set, error in goal, second one was from a penalty, and then the third one is where they broke the deadlock. It was a good play. There was a hint of an obstruction, but the guy who played the ball, Fafita, had nowhere to go. So Fafita played the ball midfield. They went right to Townsend, who immediately went left behind the ruck to Maloney, who wrapped across field and sucked in a few defenders and then turned it back inside to Holmes, who just ran straight up the middle and scored. I remember watching it going, that seemed too easy. What happened there? And I suppose it was a technicality in that they didn't directly run behind anyone apart from passes behind the ruck, but Fafita couldn't move. He just stood there. And I think it was potentially Madison that was maybe impeded by him, which was odd. He was in the middle, but Holmes ran through, scored basically under the post untouched. They sent up as a try, got confirmed as a try, went 14-6 up. And basically that was starting to look like the Sharks were going to go on with it, given they'd had such poor starts all season. All of a sudden, we're 8 points up against the Roosters and exposing them a bit.
Yeah, they're the kind of ones you hold your breath on, don't you? Where might send it upstairs as obstruction, and you're trying to look where it was, who got impeded, how bad was he impeded. But you
Yeah,
can see sort of the years it's evolved now, where now it could be 3 men out gets obstructed and it's a no try. So it's when those ones open up, they really open up. You think something must have gone wrong there, or someone fell over. But yeah, we'll take
yeah.
that one.
Yeah, so we definitely took that one. But the Broncos, the Roosters got some good ball after that. Went back downfield, and Ryan Madison, what are we going to call him? The
Now eel.
fine now eel. But I was thinking, do we call him the suspension monkey or the fine
Whoa,
dodger?
the fine
The
dodge.
fine dodger. He ran onto a short ball off Keary to score out wide on the left, getting in between, I suppose, an indecisive Townsend and Bird. I remember the commentary team, interesting, was Andrew Voss with two co-commentators in Michael Ennis and Braithen Astor with Danny Badiris on the sideline. So there was a bit of back and forth between them as to whether it was a good pass or whether it was indecision between Bird and Townsend. I think it was kind of a 4-on-3 short side play, and I think, yeah, it was with Ryan Madison there. It was a good little, similar to the weekend, but it was he hit the first run of rather than the second. So there was indecision there, given that Cleary holding the ball with two hands, also Keary holding the ball with two hands. Very difficult to judge what he's going to do. So Madison went through, scored. Gordon kicked it from the sideline again. 14-12. Sharks were looking good, having all the ball, and the Roosters were just hanging in there with basically they were converting every opportunity they had. And then we're like, okay, what's going on? A lovely bit of back and forth between Vossi and Braithen Astor, though. The Roosters were having a bit of having a bit of ill discipline, and the penalty count was 5-1, with Astor bemoaning the fact that it was a dodgy call, being the former Rooster that he is, with Jared Warrior-Hargraves laying all over Chris Hydington, and then Vossi said, of course, the Roosters have won 4 penalty counts since 1908, which Braithen Astor wasn't particularly happy with, but Ennis had a bit of a chuckle. So, they were blue, black and white glasses on, but there were some blatant penalties there. We were getting a bit of a rub of the green, I suppose. And then we went back dead field, and Fecky scored in the corner with a lovely play to the left. So we went right, nothing on. Luke Lewis got it back in, was basically running back in. He was the right edge second rower. Basically Maloney turning back inside. He went crossfield a bit Peachy-esque, and then threw a massive Harbour Bridge pass way to the left to Graham, who then just played it through the hands. Graham to Latelli to Fecky. Fecky scored. Was always going to go like his classic standing upright rather than diving, go out. He somehow stayed in, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, I'm over the try line and there's no one near me. So he brought it back around and put it under the post. So that was a tidy little way to go 2012 up at halftime.
Yeah, well, you look at our current wingers in Mulatalo and Katoa, the way they dive, twist, turn, one finger down on the ball, and Fecky just never liked going to the ground, even when he's trying to score a try. So, like you said, very upright. There's a lot of screenshots of Fecky just standing upright and 3 blokes trying to bundle him over touch. But yeah, it's one of those ones. He was such a big upper body that he knew he could sort of beat those tackles. But yeah, we love improving. We kind of wanted Talakai to improve his position on the weekend, but we'll take the 4 points first. So
Fecky did that, which, I mean, Maloney was kicking well, and he ended up kicking, spoiler alert, what was it, 8 from 8. But if it was Katoa or Ronaldo, they would have done the great put down. It would have been a try in the corner and a suspect kick where Fecky's upright stance helped him there. He did have a great, you talk about his upper body strength, great wrestle late in the second half. Ferguson looked like he was going to score for all money, and Fecky's he's a lot shorter than Ferguson, just picked him up and then manhandled him over the sideline, so with no momentum as well. So showed his skill and I suppose his body shape advantage there, which was he copped a lot of stick, Fecky, over his time, but he's a prolific try scorer, scored over 60 tries for us. So anyway, we went to halftime 2012 up, and in a bit of a side, I suppose, show on the Fox League coverage, a bit of David Attenborough going on. I'm not sure if you saw it. You probably didn't see it at the time. But there was a white-crested falcon that had picked up a decent-sized fish out of the local Brisbane waters and was sitting on top of the stadium, and the cameraman saw it ripping its guts out. So a bit of a nature show as they were chatting away there. And I think there was a few memes getting around about, is that, I don't know, a bit of a...
Yeah, I remember the content afterwards, but we obviously didn't see it during because we couldn't have a beer anyway, so it's we sort of sat around waiting for the second half.
Yeah, I don't remember don't remember seeing that in the live coverage we're watching that today. I was like, oh, there you go. I remember hearing of it, but that happened at halftime. So moving on to the second half, the first 10 minutes was an arm wrestle again. It was seesawing. Both sides had opportunities. And then Maloney with his second high shot of the game, the 45th minute, with, you'd almost call it a swinging arm on Manu's head. I don't know if he copped a fine or anything for it, but he definitely would these days. Lewis fielded a grubber with a great show of reaction. A grubber from Luke Keary that he just instinctively grabbed 10 out from his own line, and Vossi responded with "Run the 90, Luke," which was obviously a reference to his length of the field intercept against Manly the week before, and maybe a precursor to what was to come. But eventually, in the 49th minute, Roosters had an opportunity after a drop ball. We had two consecutive incomplete sets. We defended well. Fecky fielded it on the full in the in goal. Quick 20-metre restart. 2 carries by Fecky in 2 plays. So Fecky took the first hit up, played the ball. We darted our dummy half and gave it straight back to Fecky, and Fecky took us over halfway. So you could almost say that Fecky had about 28 run metres in 2 consecutive carries, which put us on the front foot. And then we marched downfield, and Ricky Latelli down the left. So it was a Townsend early left ball to Wade, who put a cutout to Latelli, who beat Manu and Ferguson to score and basically put it to 24-12. Maloney, kicking the goal to make it 26-12. And not quite game yet, but Sharks were pretty much in the box seat 10 minutes in the second half.
Yeah, pretty confident at that stage, as obviously jobbing my mate a little bit that, we were over him again and had the wood on him at that stage. Like we said, we'd won a couple of games, so he was getting uncomfortable and I was getting a bit mouthy, so it was a good day.
Yeah. Well, not long after that, so 57th minute, this is where I'm going to talk about Fafita more in a second, but beast mode. So we go right, and Fafita skips across fielders when he was unencumbered by his injuries, still had plenty of speed. Having heard him interviewed, I think it was on Dan and Kemp's podcast a while ago, he's a former long-distance runner. He had, I think at one stage, the Sharks, it was either 2 or 5K time trial record, like in the team. It was around the 2015, 2016, 2017 era. So he was showing his free running best. So he skipped across field, put a bit of a left foot step on, jinked, sucked in 3 defenders, including JWH and 2 other large defenders too, and pivoted around, kind of grand final move, wrapped his body around, popped it out the back to take it easy. All of a sudden, he sucked 3 defenders out of line. There's about a 5-on-3 overlap to the right, so take it easy with one of the only passes of his career, chucked it out the back to Lewis, who then put it out to Bird, who then put it through the hands for Beale to score a simple try in the corner, which made it 30-12. Kicked it from the right touchline to make it 32-12. Michael Ennis was calling for Ricky Latelli to be a Queensland centre. The rest of the commentary team was saying, don't think so. I think Cameron Munster will fill that position. But it was nice of Mick to be giving his former teammate a rap, and Latelli was he was underrated, and I think he still is underrated in his time. And just after Maloney had nailed the sideline conversion, Maloney sprayed some water at Connor Watson as he was going past. So Maloney was in a cheeky mood. And Connor Watson wasn't too happy about it, but 32-12, Sharks were in control.
Yeah, like you said, it was the Fafita of like that 2016, 2017 form. You can remember the origin period that he had as well, busting through and making 80 metres and finding his teammate and James Maloney. Like he was a different kettle of fish that no one could handle. No one could handle him at all in those situations. When he got running up and going, crabbing across the line, as much as he didn't enjoy it as a prop, no one else could do it. He could find that one arm offload. It was rare to have him have a dumb offload from a one-hander in a mistake. So we love those kind of moves that he had at that stage, and glad that he reneged on that Dogs deal that we spoke about before.
Yeah, you're right. It's often forgotten, myself included. I obviously remember it and forget it, and just how thankful we are that he had a falling out with Raylene Castle and they'd stuffed up his back-ended deal and third-party contracts and the like. And that's also mentioned on the Dan and Ken podcast, I believe, that about how that went down. But early 2014, he was announced to go to the Bulldogs. Then about 4 or 5 weeks later, he went on the front page of, I think it was the Sunday Telegraph or the Sunday Sun Herald, saying, I want to go to rugby union. And Bulldog said that was a deliberate ploy to rip out his contract. He signed with us and the rest is history. But in that period, I can't remember a prop being, we're looking forward to having AFB. JWH has been big over the years. You've got
probably even Payne Haas at the moment. Maybe Payne Haas at the moment. Probably close.
Payne Haas,
close, but
but
Fafita's
hasn't
speed once he got into that open field was something else. Like
that? Well,
there was times he scored tries from 40 meters out and no one
yeah,
came near him. Like it was watching,
yeah,
they bring that weight for age in for the kids. It was kind of like the big kid playing against the under sixes and just,
yeah,
he's a 10-year-old against the under sixes and just busting through. Like it was,
yeah.
different beast.
I'll have to suss out that Tigers game. I think it was around the 2013, maybe 2015,
Was it the
16.
lawnmower
Yeah.
one? Was that the
Yeah, where
lawnmower?
he ran
Yeah.
about 50 metres, maybe 40, 50
Yep.
metres. Yeah, on a Friday night with Ray Warren commentating. So good. So, yeah, you're right. We'll talk about his origin performance in a sec, but it was right in this era. He was, I wouldn't say it was his biggest game, but like when you could tell a couple of times he got the ball and he was on, there was no one stopping him, and this was one of those moments. But shortly after that, it was the moment that we're all waiting for. So, as I mentioned before, Fecky wrestled Ferguson over the sideline in the 68th minute. Then on sorry, I've jumped ahead of myself again here. It's the 61st minute. The Roosters have marched downfield, 10 metres out. Dylan Napa plays it. Jake Friend passes left to Pearce. You think Pearce is going to grab the ball and put a kick in, and out of nowhere, it's a Luke, and he's leaping, but it's not Luke Cavell. It's good old Luke Lewis. He's just coming from nowhere. Like, I think it was before memes even were a thing, but it was similar to the Cam McInnes kind of the dive that he did last year against, was it Penrith or the Bunnies or whatever, the forlorn dive, and everyone was making
Yep.
the memes out of that. He basically ran from Newcastle onto this ball, and then no one was catching him. You had Latrell chasing him, you had Ferguson chasing him, you had Jake Friend who'd thrown the pass, were chasing him, and Luke Lewis was just bounding down the field. The former winger that he was ran 90 metres to score. The week before, he'd got an 80-metre intercept to get the Sharks off the mark to get it back 18-6, but this one put the icing on the cake of this match. Vossi did quote, "Age will not weary them," as he crossed the line. But I was almost worried that because Lewis he'd stayed down a little bit. I was like, oh gosh, please tell me you haven't done a hammy or something. But he was fine. It was his fourth try of the season, the 116th of his career, and basically been an intercept king 2 weeks in a row.
Look, he made our socials last week, and if you've seen Luke Lewis at the moment, probably weighing a good 125, 130 kilos the way he looks at the moment. I don't think he'd run that 90 metres at the moment. But he was a former winger / centre most of his career before he bulked up and became the second row. I remember standing up out of my seat and riding him home like a Melbourne Cup winner or, the Caulfield Cup down the last stretch, the last 100 metres. It was...
We all did.
Yeah, we all did. The crowd rose. Everyone was cheering. That's when we knew the gates were shut. Everyone was just laughing and applauding. It obviously went upstairs, and my mate was screaming to the hilts that he was offside. And look, they went back to the replays, and maybe there was a hint of it. You said he ran from Newcastle. I might have said he might have ran from the north central coast. He was kind of close, but I think they just went, well, the game's over. It's Luke Lewis. He ran 90 metres. Let's just give it. Like, it was spectacular.
I was thinking that. I was like, oh, should he have taken the tackle just before? I think even our coach, Craig Fitzgibbon, had one, didn't he? I think where he took an intercept maybe against the Knights in a semi-final, I think, where he got the try was given. And I don't know if they took it off him, but I remember at the time thinking, oh, he should have taken the tackle just before, so the question wasn't asked. But you're right, they gave it to him, although he broke very early. The reason why I mentioned he ran from Newcastle, that speed off the marker looked like he'd kind of just coming out off the back fence. And then just out, I remember watching it, like, how is that possible? It was one pass off the ruck, and he somehow got it. I remember Adam Dykes doing it at a game against Penrith in Penrith back in 2001, similar thing where I think the commentators were blowing up. Then they didn't do it. We're not getting towed up, but we're down early, and then out of nowhere, Dykes just launched off his. That was only about 10 metres out from their line. Launched out, got the palm out, and got the intercept. But yeah, this one, you don't see it. Like, it just doesn't happen. You don't get an intercept one off the ruck. And
no,
did it.
And Bolt and I have discussed multiple times that there's a little bit of a dodginess or a knockdown or a foul play or a little hint of offside. Take the tackle, boys. Take the tackle.
Yeah.
Go one out. Go across the field. They can't then review it. It's sign and seal. But like
Next
I said, I remember watching the replay, and I was like, whoa, he might have been. I think they might have missed a slight camera angle and just went, that's a try. So, I was happy, very, very happy at that stage.
Yeah. So, anyway, that finished about a 10-minute onslaught of 3 quick tries to go from 20-12 to 38-12, and the game was well and truly done by then. The Roosters were tired by that stage. You could tell they were trying to throw the ball around more and more. They definitely had their opportunities, and we defended well. We had a high completion rate. It was a tail of 2017. We had, I think, an 86% completion rate by the end of it, which was 2017 like. We had a few more chances late on. In the 71st minute, Braithen Astor was recorded lamenting the Sharks' recent form over the Roosters, where they had indeed won 5 on the trot, which is hard to believe given that 2014's involved there. But if you cast your mind back, we had that big comeback win in late 2014 against the Roosters, or mid 2014, coming back from 24-0 down, still our record. Followed up 2015 with 2 upset victories, 2016 2 matches that, we did win. Both of them weren't the most... the second one was more convincing than the first, but after a slow start. And then this one made it 6 in a row, which was quite a period. I think I've touched on a little while ago that we've had some good runs over them at times, some good runs over Parramatta, regardless of form, where we've just beaten them. We've been their bogey side. Hopefully we resurrect that this week, because we haven't had a great record against them of late. But yeah, basically the game wasn't much doing for the rest of it until they put the icing on the cake in the 78th minute with a scrum move. Jake Friend with a simple fatigue-induced error just before that from dummy half. He'd made 1,000 tackles, dropped the ball from the scrum. We spun it left. Holmes chimed into the line, got away to Fecky down the left touchline, who threw a nice little speculative kind of basketball pass back on the inside. Not quite Statue of Liberty, but basketball pass back on the inside to Latelli to finish it off. And Maloney did what he was doing all day there with a successful conversion to make it 44-12, and that was full time.
Yeah, I think, like you said, we had the wood on them quite a bit over that period. I'd been to both games in 2016 and 2017, and my mate Chris, obviously, is a big Roosters fan, so we sort of started to go into games together, and he said, that's it, I'm done. And the poor guy, like I said, he drove up with his Roosters plates, and I'm sitting wearing the same hoodie in his passenger seat with the Premier's hat, smiling my face off. But, yeah, like you said, we had a good period over there. Obviously, it hasn't continued since then, so I hope it turns around. And the Parramatta one was interesting for quite a while. I remember over a period, we had the wood over them at Parramatta, and they had the wood over us at Sharks. It was quite strange for a while there, where we kept... I quite enjoy going to Parramatta for quite a number of years, because it was great. Because we just upset them all the time, and then they come to our home ground and would lose. I'm like, what's going on? But it's
similar
to
Canberra.
One of those things. Yeah, similar to Canberra. Yeah, like it's weird. We go down to Canberra and love going down there, and for some reason they come to our home ground and we sort of just turn it. Or, I'd like to say I'd wish it was Manly at Brookvale. Like, we remember that hoodoo we had for quite I think we were 4 from 19 or 20 at one stage. Like, it was something ridiculous.
We hadn't won. It was kind of like, when's the next Olympics kind of thing. And same too with them, record against Melbourne. We beat Manly in 2008, and then we didn't win there again until 2022, and then we won in 2023. But remains to be seen how we go this year. Last round. Let's wait and see. But you're right, the Roosters, we had that period, 2009 to 2012-ish, where we weren't great, but we were beating them. We smashed them by 40 when they made the eventual grand final against the Dragons that year in 2010. We pumped them there. We had I think it was 2011, where Stewie Mills had his debut. They were top of the table. We were not quite Stone Mothers last, but I think we were 14th or something, and we beat them. We troubled them. We had I suppose that bruising style, the Flano ball style. Gus was starting to call us the Bermuda Triangle, which he still was. I think we probably won when we won 64-14 over the Knights. He probably called it the Bermuda Triangle as well. That was well before that, but still just classic media. But yeah, our style has disrupted teams over the years, and hopefully we start doing that again soon against the Roosters.
I think there was even a game at the SFS where we had no Kamali, no Peachy, and someone else was out as well, and we'd upset them as well at the SFS, but long time ago.
Had a few.
There was
2001, we, in the Wets, they were a bit out of form, but there was talk of they had everyone back. I think they had Fittler back. We had a few injuries, and on a Friday night, we beat them. I think that one, I mean, it was back in the days of the delayed Channel 9 game, and the Pan Pacific Swimming Championships or something silly was on. So the 9 decided to put the game on at 9, not just 8:30, 9:30. It's like Burke's backyard's bad enough. I don't mind swimming, but far out. So here we are watching it Like
Thank
full
God for
time, I think
9 gem and go and things like
yeah,
that now.
yeah. With ads, it wasn't finished till midnight. It was just, yeah. I think we had all the running in the first half, and we held on in the second. But we've had, yeah, you're right, some good wins over the years there. The SFS, despite being an unhappy hunting ground in finals, we did have some success there, especially during the late '90s and early
Yeah.
2000s. But
So we'll see how. Well, obviously, we'll see how this week goes. We're going to go up to Suncorp, and
yeah,
we'll
well,
go
we'll
into it
talk about
this
that
week. But
that record tomorrow night. But looking at that, so we're talking about Fafita there. He had a few good runs, but it was hot on the heels of Origin 1, which happened about a month before. And that was probably, I think, actually, yeah, I'd say Fafita's most complete performance, that one. He was man of the match.
unbelievable.
I went off early. I'm not an Origin fan, but I was like, well, it must be like coincidence is too strong a thing. I think we had 5 Sharks players in the team. We had Bird on the bench. We had Maloney. We had Fafita. We had Lewis. We had not Lewis. I think we had 5 players overweight, and we had Holmes in the Queensland team. So obviously we were without a lot of players. And Fafita, that first half, he scored a try, ran for bulk meters, far and away man of the match. Including, as you said, he made was that I think a 50-meter break and then gave it to Maloney.
Massive break. He went from his own 30 or 40 break through the line. Nearly
Yeah,
went himself, and little Jimmy
yeah,
just backing up and just gave him a little offload and took the
yeah.
rest over. But that game was
No,
just
yeah. No one could stop him. That Origin season, spoiler alert, we did lose eventually. We lost game 2. I was at game 2. Actually, got some last minute tickets and we bottled it. I think we were up 16-0 or 16-2 or something early, and then Thurston with his arm essentially in a sling. Wade Graham was definitely playing that one. I think that was his starting debut after he'd missed Origin in 2016 for a high shot on Thurston in the Monday night win by us on our winning streak there. He was named the team and then missed out due a 1-match ban. He played that one and he was very disappointed because I think he was involved, unfortunately, in the final try that was conceded to go down 18-16, and then they went back up to Suncorp and won as Queensland do. But Fafita, during that period, was just unencumbered by injury, peak form. No one could stop him charging onto the ball. And that try by Beale, it was just classic Fafita in the fact that he was just skipping across the field like he was Andrew Johns almost. The way he was just carrying. I mean, he was carrying the ball in one arm, basically one hand rather than two, but just putting the defense in 7 minds, let alone 2. And then obviously 2 is if he's running onto a quick play the ball through a defense, no one will stop him.
Yeah, unbelievable. Like I said, peak Fafita, ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah. On to New Brown, who ended up being our starting hooker at short notice, unexpected, given the fact that we'd lost CDR early in the year, and then poor Jaden Browley had copped a badly broken jaw from Dylan Walker. So New Brown was named hooker. It was his first time named hooker, and I thought, oh, geez, that must have been his one and only game for us, given that we had Seguiari come back shortly after that. But he did play a number of games for us. He played 4 in total at hooker, but he's gone on as well, as we've seen him play for the Tigers. I think even the Knights. Now he's got the Dragons. He's kind of moved into that position after being, I would have said, just a classic 5'8" prior to that.
Yeah, what a great journeyman and a great guy. He's a really nice kid. I've spoken to him a couple of times. I love New Brown. Love hearing that he's turned up at another club. He's going to give 110%. Every time I think about him in a Sharks jersey, it's obviously that 24-0 comeback that he was involved in as well. So
yeah,
it's probably my favourite game that he was involved in. But like I said, if I find that he's in the lineup, I'm watching that game because I love watching him play. Killed it over in England. Obviously, you had that weird sin bin / send off that he was just
bizarre send off,
bizarre, which obviously be earmarked for his career in England. But he can easily go back, even if it doesn't work out this year. He's obviously playing a utility role with Flano again at the Dragons. So I think it's one of Franco's favourites as well. So
definitely one of Franco's favourites. And he retired. I think we're talking about him on a previous episode where he had
he has some chronic foot and knee injuries, but it was mostly his foot. Yeah. He got told by surgeons he wasn't pretty much give up football. He sort of had a bit of a rest. He obviously had a family tragedy with his mum passing away, but got back on track and just it's like a re-emergence of him. It's great to see. Like you said, went to the Dogs, was sort of in and out. Went to the Knights, in and out. England. West Tigers come in, was scoring tries off the bench for a couple of weeks there when he was at West Tigers.
He scored against us.
Picked up the Dragons. I love the kid.
Yeah, it's great to see because I think it was early 2020. It was during the COVID period when he announced his retirement. We're like, oh, there's not really a reserve grade comp at the moment. He's gone. And then I think I heard him interviewed. I'm not sure if it was a down in Kent podcast. It might have been just on SEN, talking about how he went down to, I think, a specialist in Melbourne, and that eventually got his foot, I suppose, back on track. Had a sustained period of rest and the like, and then built back up. And huge, I suppose, late bloomer, which is great to see. Moving on, I suppose, to well, actually one final point of him. You mentioned that 24-0 comeback against the Roosters. That seen he's front and center on full time when that they confirm that Orbison
Burn in
got
my
the ball
brain.
down and he's there. And similar to when he, I think, I'm not sure if it was his New Zealand debut, but he got recognised with a playing in the final of the whatever they called it, the Pacific Series or whatever last year, and New Zealand beat Australia 30-0, and you could see how much that meant to him. That was enormous. And I think we looked at him. He was born in, I believe, Christchurch and moved over as a teenager and played for, I think it was Dealer. I think when he moved across. So
yeah, look, he's got a bit of a mixed background as well, where he could have played for a couple of different nations, but he obviously wanted to play for New Zealand, and he got that opportunity and absolutely killed it like he always does. So.
Yeah, had the opportunity to, I suppose, to claim him as a bit of a local junior as well, given he played his later teenage years there and then came through all the grades for us through the under-20 system and the like. But on to Luke Lewis, just looking at his total number of tries for his career. So he scored 208 appearances for the Panthers with 89 tries. He must have been the second or third player to play 200 matches for one club and 100 matches for another, because I remember talking to Baldo last week. Only Chris Heiningston was the second player behind Brad Fittler being the first to play 200 for one club, 100 for another. Lewis finished with 116 for the Sharks with 33 tries, 122 tries total. Obviously, he moved from a wing to centre, then we played 5'8" for a little while, then he went lock, then he went set, and then finished off at second row. So just an out-and-out footballer. Like, he's just
two
supreme
premierships,
athlete.
one Clive Church medal winner, obviously a lot of Origin and Test matches as well. But yeah, just out and out, like you said, footballer, just ridiculous. I remember that he was in that Panthers team. Luke Rooney's on the opposite side, and he's on one side, and just they were killers. Like they were the new prototype of wingers: big, tall, lanky, rangy, fast but strong. Like that was the new prototype that Penrith built on. So.
But
I think they were the first couple of duo to come out of their own end as well. So because they were that big. So
Rooney was definitely huge. And then he went and played rugby union in Europe. But Lewis was, by his own admission, and you see him in that first year, I think in 2002 or 01-02 when he debuted, he was I think he was 17. He was very scrawny and skinny, and then obviously he filled up from there. And then basically they were. The Storm game we covered last week, there was a couple of times where I think he was having a bit of a breather and ended up on the wing, and one of them he ended up getting the ball and making a break. So,
he's obviously got that famous Origin tries where he come off the bench and pretty much his first touch, and he's also got a Test match in England where he slid into the signage and had
2013 World Cup.
That was. I can still picture that one as well. Like, it was hard to watch.
I'm surprised it didn't happen more often. I'm surprised it didn't happen at the Vegas games in round one. You see it there, and that I think you need a shoulder reconstruction that ruined his and our 2014. But great stuff from Lewis, and to see him get 2 intercept tries at the stage of his career where he probably didn't think that he would. I did read either an article or heard him interviewed these in the 2018 final series. We obviously had that famous win over the Panthers in week 2, but the Panthers were coming back. We were up 18-2. They brought it back to 18-all, and he was sitting there on the exercise bike with about 10 to go, thinking, oh gosh, this could be it. I could be finishing my career sitting on an exercise bike after thinking that my career's going on. I'm going on to a prelim final, hopefully a grand final, and all of a sudden it kind of almost vanished in the blink of an eye. Obviously it didn't, and he finished it in Melbourne the following week, but he scored a great try in the first half. Was it running off a Matt Moreland short ball? I think it was a little kind of Penrith connection v Penrith for Lewis to run about 40 metres to score. I think unfortunately we missed that conversion. That would have been handy. Would have made us 20-0, 20-2, and maybe ruled out the need for a Chad Townsend field goal.
It came for an exciting match anyway, so
it did. Gosh, yeah, I think so many people, myself included, probably put the mock on us there, thinking, we're going well at halftime, surely.
No, I was sitting there going, not the SFS again.
Exactly. Oh. Anyway, but speaking of stadiums, rolling on to Blue Tongue Stadium. It started off as North Power. It then became Blue Tongue, as we love. I do love that there was a brewery up in the Hunter Valley, Blue Tongue, which was great. And then obviously John Singleton sold it to, I think, Lion Nathan, or one of the big brands. And then they promptly shut down Blue Tongue, so that's a shame. They had a few really good beers there. Central Coast Stadium for a while. It's now known as Industry Group Stadium or something. Industry with two E's. But anyway, that's what it was called when we played them I played there in two preseason matches against the Knights over the last 2 years. But we've had a good record in NRL. We've played 6, won 4, lost 2. Our very first match there was against the Northern Eagles on April Fool's Day 2001, where we went 22-0 up at halftime. The Northern Eagles, led by, I think it was Ben Walker, came back to almost steal it, but we had a late try to, I think it was Colin Best, to win 28-22. The other try scorers there. So Colin Best got a double, Jason Ferris and good old Russell Richardson, and tries to conversions. Jason Ferris, he got 6 from 6. A few sin bins in that match. We had Nathan Long, while for the Northern Eagles, Marco Mealy and Scott Asimus got sent to the bin. But I do remember going up to a couple of games against the Bulldogs there, where we lost both of those in 2010 and 2013. And then 2017, we had this win over the Roosters. We then played a few matches during 2020, during the COVID-affected period. We smashed Manly 40 points to 22 on a rainy Sunday afternoon in front of a crowd of 178 people when they weren't allowing people. And then there was about 2,513 there a few weeks later when we beat the Warriors 46-10. I almost made it to that match, but I think it was the old was it local government area restrictions. Yeah, LGA restrictions stopped me from travelling down from Maitland for that one. But we've happy hunting ground. I've been there a few times. The first time I went was with good mate Bryn, good friend of the show, in 2007 for a preseason match against Souths, where we won. I think it was our first win in about half a year. Not that the trial counts, but I remember there was a blackout. A massive electrical storm came across at halftime, and halftime went for about 40 minutes as the stadium lost power. They were still pouring Blue Tongue though. We were good with that, but. So
I've got some funny photos of me and Boldo look quite a lot younger. Well, Boldo doesn't change at all. He hasn't changed ever. So
True.
I obviously don't have a beard and have a lot more hair. And I think Marley was, what year was that? 2007. So she was about 2 years of age.
07.
And I believe Anik found out she was pregnant with Zach that weekend. She thought she was sick or something. So we did go to that game. And I remember there was a young Will Chambers in our team during that trial match. And
was it Will Chambers or was it was it?
Oh no, it was the other fella. Who was the other fella? Went to the Melbourne.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Played for Queensland as well.
Played for Queensland, and he is.
Boulder's going to strangle us over this one.
Yeah, I've mentioned him previous in the show, and it's right there. I'm sure our viewers are yelling at us. Well, that'll come back to us in a second.
It'll come back to us very shortly.
Yeah, we did the following year, 2008. We did get pumped in a trial at Blue Tongue Stadium by Souths. Was that 44-0 or something? I thankfully missed that one, but looking at that, I'll try and find us 2007 squad. He did play for Queensland, played for Melbourne. No, that's okay. Yeah, well, anyway, moving on to the 2017 season, while I try and look that up. Melbourne, so we call it 2009 team. He'll be in that. Melbourne, I don't want the Melbourne Grand Prix. So the 2017 season, we followed up that win. We're looking back on track. We got back, I think, into third position. It was a pretty logjam kind of top 8. It was a good win. And then it all just fell to poo. We got pumped by the Gold Coast at a very wet, what have called Seabus Super Stadium or whatever up there, 30 points to 10. We had a few more good wins late on in the year, but we also had some terrible ones, and it finished off with the loss to the Cowboys in that drastically terrible semi-final.
Yeah, look, I think I think it had a bit of a tinge of a hangover for obviously the team, obviously losing a couple of players, the off-field stuff, obviously Ennis retiring. We got over the hump as Sharks fans as well, so we're still kind of basking in the glory, but thinking maybe we can go on with this, and maybe we can sort of have a second run. Maybe not the grand final because the team's a little bit different, but at least semi-finals and shake it up. So it was a strange feeling season because, like I said, it was a bit of an up and down, a bit of a yo-yo. Obviously, no Barber, no Ennis,
Yeah.
so it's a little bit different. But we obviously thought, well, we've just won. We've always been in the semi. Let's just go again and see how we go. And like you said, there was
Yeah.
obviously controversy towards the last game of the season where the Cowboys snuck in to go eighth and come and play us. And we obviously the game ended in a bit of controversy, like it always does in a Cowboys Sharks semi-final match. And they obviously kicked on because they had no Thurston. They obviously kicked on the back of the young 5'8" there,
Michael Morgan.
Michael Morgan, and went on to the grand final without Jonathan Thurston. So strange season.
Yeah, Dane Nielsen was the guy we're after. Was just great in all the lower grades and looking good. He managed to play one first grade match for us in 2007, and then Melbourne snapped him up, and he promptly went on to play for Queensland. I don't think.
Well
he
done,
played
Ricky.
For Australia.
Well done, Ricky Stewart.
Yeah, classic Ricky. But
because I remember watching him going, "Wow, this Dane Nielsen's kid's really good," and then all of a sudden he was cut.
Yeah, you're right. And he played, and he was in our junior system for a while. Like he played even prior to 07. I think he was hanging around like 04, 05, 06. People going, hey, give this guy a run, and then it didn't quite happen because he was born in 1985. So I think he was in the system from kind of 18. So we're talking 2003, similar era to when Matt King was there as well, and we had players like Jared Anderson in starting centre. But that's another story for another day. But yeah, the 2017 season, you're right. I watched that live in New York with Boldo. We touched on it last week. We did get Climbed. We absolutely got Climbed that day.
We did. Yeah,
whoever SJD or whoever. I mean, we didn't hold the ball. I think that Fafita definitely dropped it late on, but there were some decisions. I think there was
the Gallon playing for the penalty right at the end and got the old you planted the ball and lost it. So it was very I'm sure if we had a captain's challenge there, we might have won that one, but.
Yeah, but there was a really dubious try they got given. There was a dubious, I think, was it Chad or Maloney got sin-binned, I think, just before half-time in pretty controversial fashion too. Like it wasn't a professional foul. It wasn't repeat infringements. It was just, you know what, I'm going to send someone to bin because it seems like that's the done thing when it just out of nowhere. It's just a referee stamping the crackdown. Yeah, and I know that I don't know if Flano spent some money for that one, but I know there was a lot of talk, and it was across the league going, what is going on? I don't think you'd say that we deserved to win that match based on how we performed. We didn't complete, and that was a lot of the trouble with the 2017 season, as Boldo was saying last week. That kind of should be right on the night kind of attitude, like just give us the games against the big guns and we'll get it all together, and they didn't. Obviously, they showed this match, this win, the win against the Storm, and a few other matches that year showed that. And I think we strangled the life out of Penrith 28-2 earlier that year too, when Penrith the short price favourites at Panthers, and yes, Penrith's had the last laugh now with 3 consecutive premierships, but yeah, it was kind of one of those things where what might have been.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head because even reading the notes on this match, they were talking with Flano and Gow both rang out that, if we hold the ball, that's what happens. Like we put on such a big score against a red-hot Roosters team because I don't know if it was the first half or it was the whole game, but I think the first half we were 100% completion rate. So it was quite weird. So early on. So I think after that we might have been in the 90s anyway. So it just showed what happens when you hold the ball. And so, but like I said, the team looked like us fans did. We were still basking in it. It was still hungover, still a bit, well, we just won it.
Yeah. I don't blame them. It's we'd climb Everest. Why climb it again? But still, you want to be back to back, and there was that, I suppose, that vigor, that need to. But yeah, so anyway, the fallout, we've touched on all of that there. There was a scorecard, 44-12 in front of a packed Central Coast Stadium, a sellout without beer, or beer that ran out, sorry. But the Sharks finished 5th, the Roosters finished 2nd. The Roosters were bundled out by the Cowboys, actually, in the prelim final. I think they butchered that. It should have probably been a Storm Roosters grand final. The Storm trounced the Cowboys, and probably one one of the more one-sided, one of the most one-sided grand finals in memory, I think. Obviously, there's the '08 grand final against, so between Melbourne and Manly, but that was still, I think, 8-0 at half-time. This one, it was all over at half-time. Melbourne were carving up. Billy Slater got
that was their revenge tour. You got to remember that was their revenge tour because they lost to us. So it was. They were ready. Yeah, they were ready. They were ready and firing, and no one was stopping them. So
they were $1.10 from round one, and they played that way the whole way through. The Roosters were building. Obviously, they would then get their revenge on the Storm in 2018 grand final before winning off the back of the 6 again call, and a very good team to boot too. The 2019 grand final, so there was a really good Roosters side. I think in that period they really only lost Latrell, you'd say, to Souths. What was that after 2018 grand final, I think.
Did he have the 2019 or did he?
Oh, maybe he did. Maybe he hung around for 18 and 19 and then
I'm pretty sure he did.
So, yeah. So the Roosters, they kept their squad together as they tend to do. But yeah, full credit. We give him a lot of stick. I give our good friend right here, Chris, a lot of stick for the amount that he knows about the Roosters. But he had the last laugh there against his mate, and it's only because he has a fair connection to the club. I've had a few accusations lately of my knowledge of the Canberra Raiders over the years and my knowledge of their team song, but that's only because I can school their fans who don't know the words. But bad and mean. But that's another story. Anyway,
we obviously went away to Fiji this week and had a wedding where the young nephew's a Roosters fan, and he requested at the reception the Roosters song was played. So
wasn't Rooster Man? Rooster. I know they're old school 1908 song. But was it?
It's that one, yeah. In the red, white, and blue one.
Yeah, in the 90s, they used to play Rooster, Rooster Man. Anyway, so yeah, classic. And that, I know their mascot was this. It wasn't even a rooster. It was this like guy in a Roosters jersey with this giant head. It looked like Larry Emder, but anyway, it was like a.
And they had the old guy with the sticks. Remember the wooden sticks? He'd be on TV every week. He'd have the chook sort of thing on his head and the wooden sticks. Yes, he'd walk around. The wooden sticks. So.
Yeah, he was one of the 12 fans that braved the Sydney Football Stadium every weekend. But
correct,
they've got nice. I love the old Sydney Football Stadium, but they've got even nicer digs now with the new.
Well, I haven't tried it out yet, so I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, you'll have to try it. I've tried it a couple of times now. It's worth the trek. But anyway, that was the ET stand for another evening of classic Cronulla Chronicles. This time we beat the Roosters. Next week we will play the Penrith Panthers in round 12 of the 2024 season. And I haven't made my mind up yet, but I think we're going to go back to the round 1 of 2005, where the 03 Premiership winning Panthers, they made the prelim in 04. They had our favourite son in Preston Campbell. They had Craig Gower at halfback. They had Reece Wesser at fullback. I'm pretty sure they still had Luke Rooney on the wing. They still had Luke Lewis in there somewhere. And we were massive outsiders. And somehow, under Stuart Raper, something happened. And we went on a bit of a giant killing spree in early 05. So that looks like a good thing to start, or good match to cover. Whether we've got some highlights to go off, who knows? We might be going off memory and rugby league project. Thanks again to them. But anyway, if you remember this one, if you couldn't get a beer, if you couldn't get a park, you couldn't get a ticket, let us know. If you remember Luke Lewis and you remember how onside he was, yes, he was behind the try line before he set off. No, never in doubt. Let us know, and we'll cover that in due course. We'll also have our Tuesday show. You may be seeing this before or after that. Who knows? In bizarro world that is this 2024 season, but we hope you enjoyed that, and we'll say farewell and up. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for playing.
Thanks, buddy.
Cheers, mate. We'll finish off with a bit of up. Catch you guys. Bit of a fatty head wobble.